This is Janet Ray from Emmanuel Community United Methodist Church. Welcome to my summer reading, a midweek devotion. Recently, my husband and I were watching online church from our former Connecticut parish, and Pastor Ken reminded us that each day holds 86,400 seconds. He compared those seconds to a bank deposit, a treasure to be used wisely each day. And I was reminded of my current read, a saga of Winston Churchill and his family during the Blitz. And I thought about this. How would you begin to use those 86,400 seconds if you knew that one of them would be your last? How would I? In Matthew chapter 6, Jesus admonishes us, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. Instead, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So I've been reading Erik Larson's newest book, The Splendid and the Vile, and it takes a while to read. It covers Winston Churchill's first year as Prime Minister during World War II. If you've ever read an Erik Larson book, perhaps The Devil in the White City, about the Chicago Exposition, you know that not only is he a meticulous researcher, but also a terrific storyteller. He makes history as thrilling as any spy novel. In his preface, Larson tells us why he was inspired to write this book. It was only when I moved to Manhattan a few years ago that I came to understand with sudden clarity how different the experience of September 11, 2001 had been for New Yorkers than for those of us who watched the nightmare unfold at a distance. This was their home city under attack. Almost immediately, I started thinking about London and the German aerial assault of 1940 to 41 and wondered how on earth anyone could have endured it. 57 consecutive nights of bombing, followed by an intensifying series of nighttime raids over the next 6 months. Perhaps you, like me, have been thinking about our own mortality in a different context during the last year and a half. We have watched people die before their time. They've died of disease, of flood, of tornado, of fire, in gun violence, of police brutality. Perhaps it occurred to you at some point, as it did to me, there but for the grace of God go I. But for the most part, we live our lives with the expectation that there will be another 86,400 seconds available for us again tomorrow. Not so for the people of London from September through December 1940. Larson writes, "Germany's attack on London grew in intensity, though officially Germany still clung to its claim that the Luftwaffe was only going after targets of military significance. In practice, however, it waged war more openly against the city's civilian population than ever before. For one thing, the Luftwaffe was deploying increasing numbers of bombs known as parachute mines, which drifted wherever the wind carried them. Loaded with 1,500 pounds of high explosives, they could destroy everything and everyone within a 500-yard radius. With the German shift to night raids, life in London became compressed into the hours of daylight. The raids created a paradox. The odds that any one person would die on any one night were slim, but the odds that someone somewhere in London would die were 100%. Safety was a product of luck alone. One young boy asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, a fireman or a pilot or such. Answered, alive. Many people in our world today are faced with the very real knowledge of their mortality. They are fleeing Afghanistan for their lives. They are sleeping outdoors as the earth trembles beneath. They're listening to gunshots outside their apartment complex, in the lobby of their workplace, in the hallway outside their classroom. They are struggling to take a next breath as monitors beep. I think it's a useful exercise every now and again for those of us living in relative safety to imagine that this is our last day on earth. Thinking about what we would do, whom we would call, how we would fill those remaining hours, minutes, seconds. Those thoughts help us whittle away the frills, just like someone hastily grabbing precious items from their home as firefighters call for evacuation. We recognize then what is truly important to us. Jesus implores us to store up treasures in heaven, treasures that last. It's good for us to check once in a while and be sure that our treasures are in the right place. Imagine that this is your last day of life on this earth. Someday it will be. Please pray with me. Lord, sometimes we get bogged down by things that distract, but have no lasting value in our lives. Help us remember to focus on things that will last. Give us comfort and confidence to recognize and rejoice that our last instant of this life will usher in the first instant of our eternity with you. Amen.